hey look, I got a webcam now. So this is my third attempt at trying to do this. I've been wanting to try and get a Beastman little one-part LP going, just to show off how bad the Beastmen are. And, twice now I have failed at doing this, which is one of many reasons why there have been no uploads on the channel in the past 2 weeks. Sorry about that. Life got really busy. But the past 2 attempts at recording this, like I said, have not worked. Basically, I wanted to show off how bad the Beastmen are by playing a little one-part LP with them, and I was constantly picking Malagor the Dark Omen to do it. And I was consistently running into troubles, because that first one, I got a Pyrrhic victory in the first battle, which is not a good sign, and then the game crashed after an hour. The second attempt, I outright lost the first battle, which for Horde playthroughs means the playthrough is a wash, and I just finished that recording. Thankfully, that only took me 10 minutes before I got to delete that, so I'm a little bit salty right now. But basically, Beastmen almost certainly going to be the next Lord Pack. They are honestly the worst race right now overall. They have more features, more unique campaign features than Warriors of Chaos, so they've got that going for them. But they just feel terrible to play. And the Warriors of Chaos, like, say what you will, at least the Warriors of Chaos get shit done. And the Warriors of Chaos will almost certainly be overhauled in Warhammer 3, and probably turned into Chaos Undivided rather than Warriors of Chaos, right? And they'll probably replace old Sigvald with Be'lakor. But Malagor here is who I wanted to pick to highlight the Beastmen. Partly because I think he's cool, I like the whole Antichrist aesthetic he's got going on here. I like the Lore of the Wilds, so it's really fun having a Lore of the Wilds caster immediately. And I like some of his little perks here. I like plus 10 campaign movement range, I like plus 2 capacity for Brave Shamans. Plus 2 Horde growth is not great, but it's better than nothing. And plus 30 diplomatic relations with Beastmen Warherds is goddamn useless. But his starting unit selection is pretty bad. He gets nothing but Ungors except for a Giant and Chaos Warhounds with poison. That is bad. Because Ungors suck. And Malagor starts in the middle of the Badlands, in a swampy region where he gets no movement speed, and his first foe is Savage Orcs. Fighting Savage Orcs is okay if you have some kind of tool to counter their good infantry selection. Malagor does not start off like that. The Giant is pretty well his best option for dealing with the Savage Orcs. So, let me go ahead and start loading. This is lightly modded. I have a couple mods in to remove campaign map fog, one to change loading screen tooltips to lore bits for Warhammer Fantasy, and I do have the graphic settings at medium, because setting them to high, I can record at high, but the frame rate is fairly inconsistent, and it makes my PC sound like a jet engine, and I do not want that getting picked up on the mic. One of the major things I'm hoping for with Warhammer 3 is that they improve performance. Because if my understanding is correct, Troy and Three Kingdoms both did that. I've not put enough time into Troy or Three Kingdoms to really see results of that, but it's what I hear. And when we start off this Beastman campaign, I am going to be stuck for choices. Because you start off right outside of Floating Village, but you get 2 hordes, and one of them is on the opposite side of a river which they cannot cross. And inevitably, the Savage Orcs will try and underway their way to the Floating Village to stop you from taking it. So you're immediately starting off with, well, you're right next to the settlement, but you can't attack it on turn 1. And when you wrap the turn and the AI gets their turn, they're going to underway their way to the Floating Village. So what I'm actually going to do here... Ah, Christ, the Beastman campaign is terrible. What I'm going to do here is... I'm going to see if they can assist each other from across the... What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and move Malagor and Goros Warhoof, your starting hordes, together, and I'm going to have Malagor go into hidden encampment. Goros is not going to be able to do anything because that used the entirety of his movement range. And we're going to go ahead and have Malagor pop in 2 Ungors. We're probably going to need... we're going to need both, yeah. And for a new building, we're going to have them build the first main horde building. So, this is the way hordes work. Like settlements, they have to upgrade their core building before they can upgrade the side buildings, but the side buildings cost growth in the same way the core building does. Growth for hordes is slow as fuck. For the Beastmen, you're supposed to boost it by raising settlements, but that is easier said than done. So, when you start off the campaign, you get one building that will allow you to build 2 of basically your shittiest unit in the roster. And for whatever reason, Ungors with shields are a tier 2 unit. Which is nonsense because everyone else gets much better units at tier 2. But the Beastmen were clearly, I don't want to say an afterthought, but clearly the red-headed stepchild here. Which is true to Games Workshop's lore. Credit where credit is due. And while you have 3 growth points to start off with, all of the new unit buildings cost 4 growth points. So, no doggos, no Centaurs. Why are Centaurs a tier 3 unit? Why the fuck are Centaurs a tier 3 unit? Why are Centaur great weapons a tier 5 unit? The balance here is fucked. The balance here is just straight up fucked. For those who are not aware, tier 5 is supposed to be like the ultra good units. To put this in perspective, like the Lizardmen, if you play the Lizardmen, like a regular Stegodon is a tier 4 unit. Stegodons are fantastic. The tier 5 stuff for the Lizardmen, I think, are not even ancient Stegodons. I think the regular ancient Stegodon is tier 4. I think the tier 5 unit, ancient Stegodon with the Engine of the Gods, Carnosaur, and Dreadsaurian. Why the Carnosaur is a tier 5 unit, I don't really get. It's a strong unit, don't get me wrong, but it's not that strong. And for the Greenskins, I think for the Greenskins, like, the only tier 5 unit of the Greenskins is, I think, just the Arachnarok and the Rogue Idol. So the fact that Centaurs with great weapons, who are a very bad piece of cavalry, the fact that they are your tier 5 unit is really indicative of the bad unit balance going on here. If you look at your monster selection, yeah, Minotaurs with great weapons are a tier 5. I can accept that. Giants as tier 5 is bad. Every other race that has access to Giants by now, I believe, has been moved down to tier 4. But they never implemented that balance change for the Beastmen, probably because they expected that they'd be overhauling the Beastmen anyways down the line. And my understanding with Beastmen is that you're going to want to rush as soon as possible to pick up the Pile of Flesh or Desecrated Altar, because it massively decreases upkeep, and that's probably the only way you're going to be able to make consistent money is the Beastmen. Now, with someone like... whatever, we can get to that later. Okay, let's go ahead and get the Hagtree Cops and our terrible units. Ungors, for those who are not aware, are like Empire State Troops, but worse. Or they're like Men-at-Arms, but worse. But they are faster, so I guess they've got that going for them. The tech tree for the Beastmen is pretty interesting. You get to choose these various techs here, but these techs here, all, though they provide various improvements, all reduce your research rate. And these techs cost money, but they increase your research rate. I think that's a really interesting way to build a tech tree, particularly as the Beastmen are supposed to hate technology, so it makes sense that their technology tree should be really weird and kind of regressive. Now, these first 4 starting techs are pretty variable in terms of quality. Income from raiding is not very good. Raiding does not make much money unless you are... raiding is only really worth it for Dark Elves, Skaven, Greenskins, and Norska. Dark Elves and Skaven get unique resources from it, Greenskins and Norska get to encamp while they're doing it, and Norska pays less upkeep for their troops while doing it. So for them, raiding is really good. For Beastmen, raiding is terrible. Beastly Stupor, plus 10 melee attack and melee defense for Lords and Heroes. That's alright. It's better on a race like Vampire Counts that gets really good melee Lords and Heroes. For the Beastmen, it's not great. Grizzly Trophies, plus 5 leadership when fighting against men. Hyper-specific. There's a reason Bretonnia and the Empire now have specific sets of the tech tree that are specifically just there for fighting humans, fighting elves, fighting vampires. Whereas the Beastmen, you're mandatorily one of the first techs you gotta take, is fighting against men. This is fine for Kazarek and Morgur, since they start off fighting humans anyways. For Malagor, this sucks, because Malagor is not going to be fighting humans for a long time. He is going to be duking it out with orcs and tomb kings and vampires. So we're going to go with Vitriolic Temperament, which increases the recruit rank of Gors and Ungors. And with the amount of Ungors we are going to be building in the early game here, because we can't get Gors until fucking tier 3, or anything good until fucking tier 5, we are going to be stuck with Ungors for a good long time here. It's going to be like if the Empire didn't get access to artillery or cavalry or anything fun, and instead you just get spearmen. We're not even going to touch diplomacy, because for Beastmen it doesn't fucking matter. Everybody hates you anyways, and you don't really benefit that much from having friends. Or allies. And unlike other races, the settled races, diplomacy is really important because you want to close off your borders for aggression. You want to make it where you're fighting on as few fronts as possible when you're playing a settled race, because you do not want to be losing settlements. You don't want to be attacked in the rear. The Beastmen, it's a different story, because for the Beastmen, they just don't have settlements, so they don't need to worry about holding anything. Alright, Malagor has upgraded his stuff. The Orc Warlord is coming in hot. What we are going to do here is, we're not going to do, I guess, direct confrontation. What we're going to do here is, we're going to run Malagor over to, I believe, this entire area. If you're curious, okay, here's the thing I should probably explain. Beastmen do not have an ambush stance or an encamp stance. Instead, they have hidden encampment stance, which is effectively the two merged together. By all logic, this should be really good. The problem with it is that if you get discovered, then it means you can't encamp. And you can't replenish or build new units or build new buildings. This is obviously a pretty big problem. Now, with that said, it can be really good as long as you pay attention to where you're going. And how you can tell with this ambush success chance, how you can tell whether or not the ambush has a good chance of succeeding or a bad, is to simply mouse over the map. And it took me a long time to figure this out. It took me a long time to figure out ambushing was good at all, honestly. And the ambush success chance here is 50%. You see that right there on the little floating village pop-up. That's pretty important. That's really important for Beastmen. It's also really important for just about any race that uses ambush, aka all of them, because you're going to need to use ambush stance liberally in this game because the AI gets so many cheats for money. Okay, so with Malagor, we are going to move him as far as we can without going under 25%, or under 26% rather. And we're going to go ahead and put him in a hidden encampment. And for his little buddy here, oh Jesus, he's not going to be able to, because this is a river crossing. Warhammer 1 is really brutal about river crossings. I don't know why. He's not going... there's no force march stance either. So... he's just going... we're going to have to take Malagor out of hidden encampment if we want to keep our other horde safe. We don't want Icky here to... oh, now it's Mash One Finger. Last time it was Icky Iron Finger, or Iron Guts or something. Now it's Mash One Finger. Great. We don't want him taking out Malagor. The first playthrough I did, I fought Mash One Finger, and I got a Pyrrhic victory, which is bad, but it's workable. Whereas on the second playthrough, the second attempt, I fought him with Malagor and lost. And losing your starting horde as a horde race is really, really bad. And we're just going to let him keep going, because I fell for that last time and I lost. I'm sure that someone who is better at the game could absolutely win that. I'm sure that that could absolutely be winnable through cheese, but I do not use cheese. If you like cheese, more power to you. But for me, like, cheese just kind of misses the point of what makes this game great, with unit variety and different tactics and so on. And I think Legend of Total War himself has said that he uses cheese to demonstrate how broken the game's difficulty system is. And he himself has said, if you want to really have fun with Total War Warhammer, do not use cheese, play on normal difficulty, and play however you want. Which is what I do. But again, if you do like to use cheese, and a lot of people do like to use cheese, more power to you. Alright, and we are going to let Gorus Heartrender's army stay like that. And we've probably got enough melee units for now. And we're going to grab a ton of Ungor Raiders, because if we want to play Beastmen properly, we need a lot of skirmishers. They're not as good of a skirmish race as the Wood Elves, but they're better than most everybody else, I guess. Well, no, the Skaven are better at skirmishing. The Lizardmen are better at skirmishing. Dark Elves are kind of better at skirmishing. High Elves are kind of better at skirmishing. I take that back. Until you get Centaurs with throwing axes. Centaurs with throwing axes are one of the best skirmish units in the game. Alright, and Icket Claw has now called me up for a diplomacy thing because, for those who aren't aware, Warhammer 1 set up its factions in such a way that every legendary lord was part of the same faction. So there's just one Beastmen faction that is playable, headed by Kazrak One-Eye, even if you pick Malagor or Morgur. Kazrak One-Eye is the guy that gets talked to in diplomacy. And Kazrak starts in Estalia. So, whenever you play Malagor or Morgur, for whatever reason, every diplomatic meeting you have is going to assume that you're based out of Estalia. And he wants us to pay 100 gold. Icket Claw wants us to pay 100 gold to him for a defensive alliance because he thinks we're based out of Estalia and fighting the Estalians, which we are very much not. We're going to reject him because money is very, very tight as the Beastmen, and we cannot afford to just blow it on a defensive alliance with someone who is on the opposite side of the fucking old world. And we've got another underway interception. I am not going to try and catch them. Let's see. Okay, it does seem like they have pissed off. That is good. I don't think Goros got to upgrade his building. Yeah, he didn't get to upgrade his building because of that. What we are going to do is we are going to keep them on the move towards the floating village, but we are going to keep putting our lords into hidden encampment. Because this is the only way to prevent the savage orcs from trying to intercept us, and we do not want them intercepting us because we have nothing but Ungors for infantry, who will lose to savage orcs pretty handily. And we are going to continue to add new units to Malagor's army, and we're going to go ahead and throw more Ungor archers in there. We'll just throw in one more. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Going into poverty as the Beastman is natural. When you're playing any of the Horde races, and as well as Norska and Greenskins, going into poverty is perfectly reasonable. Going into the red is perfectly reasonable. Honestly, for most races, as long as you have a decent amount of money stocked up, going into the red is perfectly reasonable. But for Norska, Beastmen, Warriors of Chaos, Greenskins, if you are not in the red, then you probably do not have enough forces to make a significant amount of money. For Norska, Greenskins, Beastmen, Warriors of Chaos, their economy fundamentally functions by sacking and looting and raising. So if you have enough military if you have a small enough military that you are in the green, you are not generating as much money as you could. Now, I do like this with the Beastmen that they get to choose a free hero at the start, though I'd rather them just straight up give the hero to begin with. Whatever. I'll take a Gorbol. A Gorbol is nice and big and mean and can piss off and fight lords and heroes, which is important, because Malagor himself can do no such thing. Training is nice. Alright, and is Goros War... Okay, so what we are going to be able to do here with Goros Heartrender and Malagor is we are going to... What is the name of the Doom Bowl, by the way? Fa! Okay. That's a much more pronounceable name than it gave me on the first attempt. We're going to go to the floating village, and it's going to be such a crushing victory. Let's quick save here, just in case it crashes. And we're going to auto-resolve it, because it's just going to be a farce. As a decisive victory, unsurprisingly, we're going to need cash more than we need growth. Yeah, especially at the rate we're bleeding money, so we're going to go ahead and loot and raise. How long does that horde growth last for? Just a single turn? It's just one instance of plus 8 horde growth? That's terrible! Plus one instance of plus 100 chaos corruption is great, though. I need the cash, so I'm going to loot and raise. But, yeah, okay. And we got the Trickster's Shard for Malagor. That's a pretty good one for him. Plus 5 magic reserve is nice. Plus 100 miscast chance. Great, yeah. Because, you know, that's something the AI loves to do is use magic. We all know that, right, guys? Alright, for some reason, Goros is locked in a circle here. Oh, it's just because he's out of movement range. That makes sense. Alright, what we are going to do here is we are going to upgrade Malagor. We're going to give him Gargantuan Hooves. What we want to do for all lords, just all lords, period, is rush as quickly as possible to Lightning Strike. The AI is pretty much always going to outnumber you, even if you're playing on normal difficulty, because they get cheats to their economy. So they're going to be able to afford quite a lot of military. In a lot of cases, you're going to fight a faction that only has a single settlement left and yet maintains 2 full armies in that settlement. And that's because of background income, which I'll explain in just a second. And so you rush to Lightning Strike as soon as possible to try and, one by one, eliminate armies that are outside of settlements. And for the Minotaur here, the Gorbol, I actually like this about Gorbols. they get a different skill tree that they can use to upgrade parts of the army. However, it's Warhammer 1 based balance, which means that one of them upgrades recruitment cost. And recruitment cost is a really fucking pointless thing to upgrade unless you're playing one of the few races that makes heavy use of global recruitment, like the Wood Elves. So we're going to go with Best of the Beast instead to increase the leadership of the entire army by +4. Now, what I want to mention here is, let's go ahead and see, background income. So, background income plus 2,500 gold is pretty important. For the player, it's a benefit there to make sure that the player never goes too badly into poverty, even if the player is mismanaging their economy really badly or getting their ass kicked real badly. It's just 2,500 gold that you get for merely existing. And the majority of the time, it is pretty well the entire thing that is paying for your starting army. Particularly if you're playing one of the legendary lords who gets a really flashy starting army, like Emmerich, who starts with a Dragon Prince and a Sun Dragon, which are crazy. And it's notable that the AI also gets background income, which means that even if the AI is left with a single settlement, and that single settlement is filled with nothing but garrison buildings, they are still going to be able to maintain a decent military just from sheer background income. And we're going to go ahead. That's also why, if you've ever tried to check how the AI's income is, like, let's look at Morgheim here. Morgheim is only generating 260 gold. That's not very good. Vampire counts in the early game don't have a very good economy, but that's kind of embarrassing even for them. Excuse me just a second. But nonetheless, I'm sure that, excuse me, the Empire of Strigos has an army somewhere else on the map. How are they paying for that army? Background income. Speaking of which, we probably want to... we're probably not going to be able to siege, so going to Morgheim. Wait a second. Gorbals are siege attackers. Okay, that's important. We may go for Morgheim next. We need to get on the path to the next objective. We cannot just camp out in the woods as long as we're at a deficit here, and we will be at a deficit for the rest of the campaign. So we need to keep the momentum going and strike at the next settlement that we want to hit. Though going for Morgheim, you know what? I may not go for Morgheim, especially if they're offering 600 gold for nothing. Okay, I'll take the 600 gold. I can use that. And instead I'll turn south, because now that I think about it, I shouldn't be declaring war on anyone while I still have the top knots left to deal with. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put Malagor and Goros into Hidden Encampment to get them replenishing. And let's see. Yeah, let's keep them about pace so that one of them doesn't fall behind. Excuse me. Hidden Encampment, get them both replenished. Let's see. I've got a fair bit of cash, but I can't really spend it here. Goros got to finish his Hag Tree Copse. Let's see. We can go ahead and grab more Ungors for Malagor while we're at it, but we're bleeding money enough as it is. We're going to go ahead and hit in turn. Soon enough, we're going to be heading down to deal with Aggro Migdal. We're going to want to keep in Hidden Encampment as long as possible, because, again, I can't really confront the Savage Orcs here. They are going to beat me. Until I get either enough sheer weight of numbers with the Unggols to just outnumber them, which is... Did I say Unggols? Slip of the Kislev tongue, I guess. Enough Ungors to just weigh them under sheer weight of numbers. Or until I can get Gors out on the field, which is not going to be for a long time. Okay, the Darkmoon. Had to talk about this at some point. So the Darkmoon. This is the unique campaign feature of the Beastmen. Every other campaign feature the Beastmen have is a ripoff from another Warhammer 1 race. They have Horde mechanics, but it's clearly a ripoff of Warriors of Chaos Horde mechanics. They have Bray Herd mechanics, but it's clearly a ripoff of Warhammer 1's version of the Orc Wall mechanic. Those are both terrible, by the way, I should note. But this is the unique thing about the Beastmen, and it's actually pretty interesting, but it's not executed very well, in my experience. So you get 4 options here to represent Morrslieb ascending through the sky and the Beastmen going nuts for it. So there's all must fight, minus 25 melee defense for all armies, plus minus 90 recruitment cost. This is terrible. It would be great for global recruitment, actually. I take that back. It would be great for global recruitment. No matter how far. Campaign movement range, plus 50% for all armies. Vigor in battle, tired. This would be bad if I were about to get into a fight, but I'm not going to, so I'll probably go with this one. Ruinous Incentive. Plus 10 Bestial Rage all armies. Plus 33% upkeep for all units. This is god-awful. There is no situation that this will be good. Money is tight as the Beastmen. You are not going to be able to do that. And the Bray Herds are so useless that Bestial Rage is not a good encouragement to try and get that. When one falls, all damaged units will be fully replenished, minus 20 Horde Growth for all armies. Horde Growth is such a necessity, you're never going to choose this. So, look at the 4 options we got here. I said this one is pretty well useless, this one is pretty well useless, this one is pretty well useless. A lot of the times, the buffs are massive stuff. I should clarify, I'm not going to go ahead and say, it was wrong of me to say when one falls is useless. This is a very good one when you're on the warpath. But I'm not actively on the warpath, at least, like, not yet. If I was running several hordes, tearing my way through the Empire, this one would be great. But as of right now, it's in the early stages of the Beastman campaign, so I don't want to pick this because it's terrible for the early Beastman campaign. And this one is terrible for the early Beastman campaign because money is tight, and Bestial Rage, even if I do get high Bestial Rage, I won't be able to get Bray Herds anyways. And this one is terrible at pretty much any stage unless you've got a ton of global recruitment going on. And why would you do that? Because really you should be having most of your Beastmen hordes running together. No matter how far is good, because I'm not going to be getting into any fights soon, I'm going to be spending a lot of time in hidden encampment, so I'm taking that. And what we are going to do is we're going to keep the armies moving forward, put them in hidden encampment again, and you can't really tell the movement the movement buff at this point because we're in swampland, and swampland is terrible for movement range. Low Bestial Rage, I don't care. Again, the Bestial Rage mechanic is terrible and is as much of a nerf as it is a buff. What it is you got this little... I can explain it once the turn rolls around. Turn rolls around. It'd be better if I had visuals to go with it. One thing I do want to note, by the way, a big reason why I torched the first recording, I actually was tempted to upload the first recording that ended in a crash anyways, because honestly I found it kind of funny that it ended in a crash, and I was talking about how bad Beastmen were. Oh, hey, our tech is up. But the problem really was I put the webcam in the wrong place. Right now it's in the upper left corner, and the way I had it before was in the bottom right corner, so you couldn't see the tech tree and diplomacy and so on buttons, which are fairly important. We're going to pick our next technology. There's True Horn and Twisted Visions. Neither of these really lead to things I'm particularly hot for. So, let's see. Let's go ahead and look. Which one increases horde growth? Oh, shit. I have to get Grizzly Trophies, even though I'm not going to fight men. Because I want to get Hives of Pestilence. Bleh. For both of the hordes, they are now taking attrition because of Bestial Rage. Oh, excuse me. So if you look here, you got a meter here in the bottom left. Bestial Rage. The Greenskins used to have this, and it was called, like, Animosity, as a reference to the tabletop. And it's a little meter here that goes up when you get victories in battles, and when you raid, and it goes down just by existing. It goes down when you are just in an encampment. It just goes down a lot like that. It goes down for casualties taken, too, which really encourages you to cheese the game to get as few casualties as possible. So, again, it's a bad mechanic. When it gets down below this, it gets into Unruly, and you start taking attrition. Or do you? Oh, yeah, taking attrition. And once you get below this, it leads to severe attrition. I don't see a difference. I don't see any actual attrition here, but I guess it doesn't proc as long as you're in encampment. And when it gets above this, the buff you get is you get a Bray Herd, a little second army that is randomly built that just follows you around, mostly made of terrible units like Ungors. And this army is AI controlled, not player controlled. That's really important. And it will follow your orders, but not very well. If you've ever tried to boss around a military ally in campaign, then you know how the AI can sometimes be like leading headless chickens. And it's much the same as that. It wasn't god-awful, but it was pretty bad because, for one thing, the AI didn't follow your commands too well. And for another thing, here's the kicker. If the Bray Herd dies, you lose diplomatic, what's the name of it? Reliability. Now, admittedly for Beastmen, reliability isn't too bad, but sometimes you want to try and filch people for cash, demand money from them. And the AI will pretty much never agree to any diplomatic proposals of any kind if you have low reliability. Which I guess is fair. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to move forward just enough to keep going in. Oh boy, we've hit the edge of the swamp here, you can tell. And yeah, you can really tell because not only has my movement range increased, but the ambush success chance has gone down, which is great. So we're going to go ahead and stop here instead, just to keep the ambush success chance up, because I'd rather not have to deal with getting pushed out of encampment. And let's see, there we go. We're going to keep Malagor there. We're going to put him in hidden encampment. And what we're going to do with both of them is you hit Quell Animosity to forcibly bring your bestial rage back up. And that just suddenly damages all of your units from your lord basically just going around and kicking ass. What the hell is it doing? Oh, okay, I guess you hit it there and it does it. Okay, great. There we go. So the next turn, we're going to suddenly take damage to all our units from Malagor just going around and knocking heads together. Why Malagor has to do this, considering that he's a religious idol to the Beastmen, I don't know. They'd have been better off just giving the loyalty mechanic, honestly. Excuse me. So we're going to head down to Agral Migdal. If there's already a the Lord says, anyways, if there's already a Lord camped out in Agral Migdal, I've got milk on my beard, on my mustache at least. If there's already a Lord camped out in Agral Migdal, which there is, we are going to keep going and raise the Savage Orc settlement that's somewhere out here. Making war on the top knot sucks, by the way. If you've played Cetra, you know this. Okay, so with the Badlands, now all of a sudden we take attrition. And I do want to note here, you can see in the bottom left on the little meter surrounding my character's portrait, how much movement percentage he'll be left with after this move. You do not want to bring it down to 25 or 26% if you need to enter a stance that requires 25%, because sometimes the game makes the assumption that 26% actually is 25%, and goes, oh no, you can't move there. You can't enter hidden encampment, you've moved too much. So for Goros, we're going to have him cross the river and enter hidden encampment. I don't understand this about Total War Warhammer 1's map. Sometimes rivers, trying to ford a river, loses you all of your movement, and sometimes your character just fords it regardless. Maybe it has something to do with the swamp, actually, come to think of it. Because the places I think of it always happening are 28% movement range, cannot enter hidden encampment. Campaign movement range required to adopt, 25%. This character does not have enough movement range to adopt this stance. His movement range left behind, 28%. This campaign sucks so hard. Okay. Jesus Christ. Yeah, fighting the Savage Orcs is not fun. They are pretty high tier, and for Malagor and Cetra both, they start off at war with the Savage Orcs, so they need to pick a fight with them immediately. Both Malagor and Cetra start off with really bad infantry selections, so they're just going to crush your infantry. Cetra at least gets the Cambrian War Sphinx, and the Cambrian War Sphinx is great, and will plow right through the enemy infantry. But Malagor starts with a giant. Giants are good, but they're more so used as centerpieces to kind of base your army around, in my experience. Whereas the Cambrian War Sphinx is kind of like a monster chariot in a way, in that it just plows through enemy infantry. We're going to go ahead and put Malagor into encampment, and hope and pray here that we do not get detected. Oh boy, why are we trading units? How much movement range do we have left? 28%, thank God. Okay, we're going to keep Goros and Malagor together, because if this guy comes out of his settlement, then he will absolutely wreck Malagor. we may be able to just go ahead and rush this settlement and take it in a little bit. What we are going to do is we're going to hit in turn. One other thing I want to note about Malagor's campaign. I like that he starts out in the Badlands. I like that it adds to the kind of savage aspect of the Beastmen to have them duking it out with other savage tribes of greenskins, right? That's cool. What I don't like is that the Beastmen partly were built around the fact that they're really strong in forests, because all of their units have Forest Strider, right? And they've always had Forest Strider, even back when Forest Strider was not a visible ability. And now Forest Strider is even stronger than it used to be, because you can go through trees. Somehow. You become fucking Kitty Pryde from the X-Men. And it means that as the Beastmen, one of your best options is to stick to the forests, right? Alright, I smell bacon. I wish I had a pig Beastman so I could make a joke about that. I'm sure that when I fight the dwarfs, I'll smell plenty of bacon. Alright, we'll keep going with Best of the Beast because leadership is really nice. And we are not going to be able to rush Agril Migdal. I'd prefer not to rush Agril Migdal right now. I'd prefer to get Fa and the Giant up a little bit in health, because they are going to be carrying this army quite a bit. But what I'm getting around to here is part of the Beastman's strength is using units like Ungor Raiders and Cintagor Raiders with throwing axes, and using them to force the enemy to come fight you in the forests where they usually have a disadvantage and you have an advantage. The Wood Elves, of course, doubled down on this really hard, because all of their units get significant offensive bonuses while fighting in the forest, especially their treemen. But the Beastmen have a lesser degree of it, where they don't get buffs from fighting in forests, but they don't get nerfs either, where most units do. So it's still a more advantageous position for the Beastmen than it is for, say, the Empire or the Greenskins. But the problem being, we're playing in the Badlands, and there are very, 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 very few settlements that have trees around them in the Badlands. Very, very few maps that have trees. Also, the lack of forest on the campaign map is rough, because the Beastmen rely on that to get hidden encampment, as standing in forest massively increases your ambush chance. Which is part of what makes, say, the Empire and Vampire Counts campaigns fairly easy, because you can just ambush so much as the Empire or the Vampire Counts, because in the old world there's so much forest. And what we are going to go ahead and do here is we need cash, and we need it now. So we are going to just pop out of encampment stance, and we are going to very suddenly wreck Agril Migdal here. I imagine that from the perspective of the Savage Orcs, this has to suck, because they just all of a sudden lose a settlement. But if you've ever played campaign and lost a settlement to the Beastmen, which I have done many times, you know that there's a reason you build garrison on every single settlement, regardless of how far it is from an actual war front, because the Beastmen exist. And we're going to go ahead and hit that auto-resolve. I actually think that's one of the biggest problems with the Beastmen existing in the game. My god, it was just Savage Orcs, guys. I should have fucking played that battle myself. Christ, okay. They didn't even have cavalry. I should have played that battle myself. The Ungor Raiders would have devastated them. Okay, whatever. We are going to loot and raise for a hot 2,500 gold. We need that. And we are now taking attrition, which is not great. Can we move, Yes, let's go ahead and move Goros here. Put him in hidden encampment. And I assume Malagor cannot go into hidden encampment. This is another problem with the Beastmen. So, when you sack in Total War Warhammer, you can then immediately go into ambush stance or encampment. When you raise, you can't. The Beastmen can only raise. The other big horde factions that will just go and hit a settlement and then book it out of there can sack and run. Greenskins can do it. Norska can do it. I think even Warriors of Chaos can do it, and they're a horde faction that can't occupy settlements. So this is another thing that makes the Beastmen really suck. They can't sack. That'd be one of the easiest improvements to make on the Beastmen, is just make it so that they can actually fucking sack settlements. I guess I should suggest some actual, like, fixes here for some of this stuff. Some of the obvious stuff is just give them a better skill tree, because the skill tree here is not terrible. There are worse Warhammer 1 skill trees, but I don't think Malagor has any unique skills here. Jesus. Oh, he's got Crowfather. He's got that at least. And Bloodlust? I think Bloodlust is... No, all Beastmen get Bloodlust. Okay, we're going to go for Feasting Upon... No, we aren't. We're going to go for Blessed by Evil, because that one gives reduced upkeep. And reduced upkeep for Hordes is fantastic. And Fa, the Gore Bull, we are going to double down on Best of the Beast, plus 12 leadership for the entire army, so the Ungors aren't so bad. For Goros, we're going to head and get Gargantuan Hooves, as if he didn't have enough movement speed already. And we're going to, much the same with Malagor, run all the way to Lightning Strike. And then, what is Gathering? Gathering of the Beasts only gives you plus 1 Horde recruitment capacity? That's crazy. Christ, they need a belt. Oh, man. Okay. I also want to mention the Darkmoon thing, right? Well, we're going to get it in 3 turns. I can probably talk about it then. For Bray Herds, I would just get rid of that mechanic. Unlike the Greenskins, I would not replace it with Greenskin Wall. I wouldn't. Because the Bray Herd isn't actually that really important of a mechanic for the Beastmen. Gathering the War Herds is a part of Beastmen lore, but it doesn't really work like that. It's not like you go around and kick enough ass and you get everybody to follow you. I was just reading the Beastmen 6th edition Codex the other day, or I guess it's not Codex, I guess it's an army book. I guess I'm talking 40k there. I've not read the 7th edition Beastmen army book fairly recently, so it may contradict this, but the Beastmen 6th edition army book specifically states that when a war herd gets going, a leadership figure, be it a Great Bray Shaman, or a Doom Bull, or a Beast Lord, will gather his herd and set a fire and deliberately use it to send smoke signals, and start filling it with, like, different hallucinogenics that cause Beastmen to get visions when they see it, and the Beastmen will gather from around, and then that Beast Lord will challenge the other Beast Lords of the herds for leadership in a unarmed fist fight, which I actually thought was really interesting, because they actually do not want to kill the other Beast Lords, which makes sense, and is unusually civilized for the Beastmen, or just any Chaos faction to begin with. And that's basically how it works. It's not, you know, a Beast Lord goes and raises a shit ton of settlements, and the other Beast Lords are like, hey, get me some of that. It's really just more, it's kind of a religious crusade, which I think a big problem that the Beastmen have in a lot of the lore, and this is not Grey of Assembly's fault, this is Games Workshop's fault, but the big problem that a lot of the times Beastmen have in the lore is that they just feel like Chaos Greenskins. So they don't feel special when you've already got the Greenskins, who are already the savage, raising warriors who gather, and their entire hierarchy is built upon strength, right? And we're not going to be able to buy any upgrades for Goros here because we have so little cash, so we're just going to hold back on that. And I think that implementing something like that, implementing more of a religious fervor to the Beastmen, could really separate them from the Greenskins here in Total War Warhammer. I think that's really what makes them special and different from the Greenskins as a savage, horde-raising faction. The other thing, of course, I'd suggest is to emphasize the destruction of civilization as one of their ideas. Whereas right now, they're just trying to make money. You know? One thing I do want to note that I actually think is really cool, and I'll get to show it in a second once the turn rolls past, is that when you raise settlements, I don't know if this is an exclusive thing to Malagor, because it looks rather Malagory, but the Beastmen, when they raise settlements, leave behind those unique idols, which you can see on the screen right now in Agro Migdal. Let's go ahead and zoom in there. And the Bloody Hands of Confederates, Gabby I don't care. If we raise or sack a settlement belonging to Numis, we'll get 750 favor. Oh, that's worth it. Okay, so Agro Migdal here has been replaced by a big Beastman idol. Stuff like this, I think, is a part of what really makes the Beastmen fun and not just rip off Greenskins. This kind of satanic, horrible thing that should not be stuff when they're at the high level. Low-level, weak Beastmen should be like just animalistic savages. High-level Beastmen should be a terror to behold. They should be like satanic, like mortal demons, in a sense, right? And I'm not referring to the Beastmen of the Southern Chaos Wastes either. Another thing I really like, the Hidden Encampment stance has this weird tree here, and it's got these kind of like flexing pustules that looks gross and weird because the Beastmen are corrupting nature around them. I like that a lot. Boy, you can really see the delineation between the Southlands and the Badlands here. Just all of a sudden, the soil turns from dark tan to light. Alright. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to want to get on our way to taking out Gorgazon. Why we even know Gorgazon exists, I don't know. All of a sudden, the fog of war lifted real hard. And we're going to haul ass this way as Malagor and then put him in hidden encampment. Ugh. And while I'm doing this, I want to mention probably the most controversial take I have for the Beastmen and Chaos Undivided. I think that the best way to deal with the inevitable issue of AI resettling, because right now, the way they handle it is the AI just instantly goes and resettles it. Or, well, no, actually, that's been the way it's been for a while, but they've actually made the AI where it's way less aggressive about that. They'll still do it. The Skaven will do it a lot. Which makes sense, because they're Skaven, but I think the best way to handle resettling and prevent it from being the issue that it is for the Warriors of Chaos and Beastmen, and to a lesser degree Norska, is to just make it where they plant down Wood Elf-style outposts. And make them really weak, but just make it where the Beastmen plant down herd stones, right? As an alternative to raising, they can plant down herd stones. And those herd stones will put down a garrison of Minotaurs, will increase chaos corruption in the region, and maybe one or two other effects, but don't provide growth or replenishment, because you don't want the Beastmen to be sedentary. Have it provide buffs that aren't buffs for local armies. Because I think if they provide buffs for local armies, it makes the Beastmen play a bit too much like a settled faction. It should be other buffs. I don't know about recruitment, but it should definitely leave a garrison of Minotaurs, because it is specifically a thing that's said in the Beastmen lore is that the Beastmen plant down the herdstones as holy idols, similar to the Chaos monoliths, and the Minotaurs, for whatever reason, are obsessive about protecting them. And everyone else pretty well knows you leave the herdstones alone, because where there is a herdstone, there are Minotaurs. And yeah, we're going to be waiting on replenishment for a while there. But I'm going to go ahead and grab Malagor a singular unit of Ungor Spearmen. Let's go ahead and grab 2 units of Ungor Spearmen, because we've got plenty enough raiders right now. It's going to end up costing us more money over time, but we'll probably make it back by sieging Gorgazon. Getting the orcs out of Galbariz is going to suck, though. Maybe using Gora's Heartrender as a decoy? That could probably work, yeah. So I'd say Beastmen should get settlements. When the Darkmoon pops up, I've got a suggestion for how to make it better. Okay, here we go. A dilemma. A Bray Herd calls. A rival Beast Lord has called a Bray Herd to war and demands that you join his ranks. Will you listen to this call, or will you forge on alone without them? This is actually a lot closer to how the Bray Herds are actually supposed to form in the lore. Okay, answering the call. +7 leadership, -5 horde growth. Horde growth is really important in the early game. I'm going to have to disregard the call. And we are going to keep Malagor and Goros on the move. Let's see, we're not going to move that far, just kind of into this little Devil's Pit or highway here. Oh no, the Devil's Highway is a very different thing. Never mind. Forget I mentioned that. Let's go ahead and put both of them in hidden encampment. Yeah, we don't want to talk about war crimes while we're playing Warhammer, do we? In turn. So the Darkmoon should pop up next turn, and I can go ahead and provide my suggestion for how to improve it. Because right now, I think a big part of the problem with the Darkmoon is that it feels like you're forced into taking a big nerf that you don't really want to. And while this was fine, I guess, for Warhammer 1, when everyone was a lot weaker, and the Beastmen were clearly just built to be jobbers, but I think by now people don't want the Beastmen to be jobbers. Honestly speaking. So, the problem is, you get 4 choices, all of which have a massive buff and a massive nerf. My suggestion would be, have a 4th choice, have this 4th choice, instead of being a massive buff and a massive nerf, have it be a tiny buff and no nerf. So it feels like the player's not being forced into this, but when the player looks at it, they're going to be like, yeah, this 4th choice, I mean, I guess it's nice, but I could take plus 50% campaign movement range, Why would I take, like, you know, +5 melee attack when I can take this, you know? Alright, here we go. Casualty replenishment rate +10. Horde growth, pass. Ruinous incentive, pass. Beastly inclination. We're going to be going and sieging Gorgazon pretty soon, so I guess I'll take Beastly inclination. Even though it means it's probably going to run out before I get to Gorgazon, because the settlements are so far apart. That one would be really nice if you're making war in the New World, in Ulthuan or Lustria or the Southlands, because the settlements are a lot closer there. But out here in the Badlands, in the Warhammer 1 map, the settlements are pretty far apart, I've noticed, which is a big thing. Whereas the New World, they seem to be a little tighter, closer together. Except when Warhammer 1 settlements are tight and close together, in which case, they're really tight and close together. You know, they're all, like, in a fucking stone's throw of each other. Okay, here we go. They feel close together when you're trying to give the AI the runaround. They feel far apart when you're on the warpath. That's what I'll say. And that is just probably bias. Just your brain being stupid. I love this that the Beastmen have, where when they're in hidden encampment, they turn into a little mini settlement. It's not as good looking as it is for Chaos, because for Chaos it's neat that they turn into a Chaos Tower. But, you know, pretty cool. Pretty cool. Alright, Grizzly Trophies has unlocked. Okay. This is the dilemma that made my game crash on the first attempt. Let's see if this is replicable. It's not. Okay, by the way, that's a terrible dilemma from Allegor. Choose to do more damage against... Choose to have better leadership against the Empire of Bretonnia. Such a tough choice. Empire or Bretonnia? Who is the more severe threat right now? Alright, we get to pick a new tech. We do not have enough money to upgrade our research speed, so we're going to be going for Hives of Pestilence to get Horde growth online. After that is Gore Drunk, which is not terrible. I might take it. Ancient Beast Paths. That one's not bad at all. Evasion with Beast Paths is really nice for Beastmen, because they spend most of their time running away. Leadership +10 for Lords and Heroes. That's not great. Path to War Recruitment. Oh my god. Okay, we're going to go ahead and hit in turn. No, we're not going to. I've not moved yet. What am I thinking? So, how are we for replenish? How are we for actual, like... Okay, we still need some stuff to replenish from Allegor, so great. Alright, let's go ahead and make our way downtown. We are definitely going to lose our Darkmoon buff before we get to Gorgazon. I probably should have taken the replenishment one, but minus 20 horde growth is disgusting. Alright, and there we go. Mash One Finger is out and about. Why exactly, I have no idea. I need to check if Mash One Finger is at war with anyone else. Okay, he is at war with Cetra. That's nice, but I don't imagine Cetra is doing much to help here. Particularly because the AI tends to assume that for whatever reason, you're going to attack the enemies so they don't have to worry about it. So since I'm at war with the same faction that Cetra is, Cetra assumes that I've got the top knots handled and he doesn't have to worry about them. Why he would think that, I have no idea. Oh, okay, there may be a Tomb King invasion of Gorgazon. I may stand corrected. No, what the fuck? Why are they just camped out in Gorgazon? Okay. Don't mind if I do. Hang on, there we go. I don't know why my voice peaked there. Alright, here we go. Yeah, there we go. Hang on, I don't want to trade units. Oh, stop that. That's good enough. We might be able to take Galbraith while they're busy fucking off doing whatever. And we are going to hit the good old in turn because we do not have enough money to do anything substantial. Is the Beastmen campaign not thrilling? I have not had an actual fight yet. But what can I do? I've got Ungors. I can't fucking take on Savage Orcs with this shit. If I take Galbras, though, Galbras will probably provide a lot of money. Oh, yeah, they're not there. I mean, we're getting, hey, increased campaign movement range. So Sweet. And we've got our movement range back. Thank fuck. Alright. Yeah, this'll be good. I probably should have had Goros move first. Fuck. I hope I don't leave him behind. Ooh, yeah, he's gonna be lagging behind a bit. Whoop, 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 nope. 27% should work. Should. It should work. Whether it actually works is anybody's guess, because sometimes it just goes, fuck it. You got 30% movement range, but we're going to say you can't in camp anyways, just to fuck with you. What's the ambush success chance? Oh, 0%. That's a bug for some reason. It seems to be specifically a bug with a Beastman hidden encampment. When you're in hidden encampment state, it looks like all regions have 0% ambush chance, which is false. But it worries you anyways. It's evidently just a visual bug, because I've been able to hidden encamp this entire playthrough, so apparently not the case. Scheme of Doom, performed by Clan Scryer, good for them. Is that the one that makes a master engineer that plants a Undercity? Or is that the one that causes earthquakes? I forget. Or are they the same scheme? I think for Clan Scryer, those may be the same. Alright, and let's see. Are both of them going to be able to attack Galbras? They are. So we're going to be able to launch this attack immediately because Malagor has the Gorbel with him, which is nice. Okay. Now, this is a walled city, but thankfully Savage Orcs aren't great at defense, and the thing is, since we have the Gorbel, what we are going to be able to do is we are going to be able to try a cheese strat. And I said I'm not going to cheese, I know, but we're playing with vanilla sieges. Vanilla sieges, the AI is cheesing you way harder than you could ever cheese them. Sieges suck in Total War Warhammer 2. It is without a doubt the #1 feature that must be fixed for Total War Warhammer 3, because for Total War games, sieges are going to be 99.9% of your battles. You are almost never going to actually run into somebody in the field unless you are making avid use of the ambush stance. Which, I am coming to learn, I probably should make more use of ambush stance than I do. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to get it, be able to take a hit here. And Christ almighty. Okay, we're going to go ahead and gamble. Is this one of the rare forbidden one-gate settlements? Yikes. Okay. We're going to go ahead and start deployment. But what we're going to do here... So, here's the thing. Towers have pretty much infinite range. It reaches all the way back here. The only artillery piece I'm aware of that could possibly outrange the fort towers, and oh boy, my frames are tanking hard here. The only artillery piece that can outrange towers are, I believe, the Hellstorm rocket batteries. What we're going to do here is we are going to just rush the gates. Just straight up. Or rather, we're going to have some of our units rush the gates. We're going to take a lot of losses here. I'm going to go ahead and say that. We're going to have the Ungor Spearmen in the side. Yeah, here. Sure. They're going to rush the walls. Everyone else is going to actually rush the gate. Well, you know what we could do, actually? We could make use of reinforcements here. What we're going to do, actually, I've changed my mind. Here's what we're going to do. Because we're going to just focus on rushing the town center is how we're going to win this. Because that's pretty well the only way to win a siege, honestly, in this game. Other than just rushing the walls and getting yourself into a meat grinder. So what we're going to do is, we're going to camp all of our units back here. Because if you go all the way back here, this is the only spot on the map that the towers cannot reach. And I may be wrong, they may be able to even reach this far. We're going to take these units and we're going to move them here. Here we go. And this is a fucked up mob, but it is what it is. Except we're going to take one unit of spearmen. Cheapo, shieldless spearmen. And we're going to plant them right here since they get Vanguard deployed. And what we are going to do is these guys are all going to camp out here and wait for reinforcements. This asshole is going to rush the gate. And we're going to see how successful he is. And I want to see how far is the range of towers. Okay, so we are out of the range of towers. That is good. So while this unit of Ungor Spearmen rushes the gate and hopefully does not get minced by archers, we are going to organize our actual force here. Okay, let's see. Let's go ahead and put this guy in a group by himself just so I don't get him confused with the others. And what we are going to do here is, yikes, this is going to be a disorganized force. We are going to... Do I still want to rush the walls with these shieldless spearmen? I don't think there's any way to get, like, a perfect victory here, so... We may go ahead and have these spearmen, yeah, rush the walls, while the others rush to the gate. Or... I'm not sure what the correct choice of action is to go here, because this is not... This isn't actual sieging. There's not really much tactics here beyond rush the fucking town center. So I may try and concentrate everyone into one bubble. Make kind of like a Death Star formation. Which would be terrible if the enemy had magic or artillery, but they don't, so who gives a fuck. Yeah, I'm just going to Death Star it here. And let's see. Yep, get these guys, Death Star them. There we go. And are they even bothering to shoot at the Ungor Spearmen? They are. Okay, the Ungor Spearmen have finally come in rage. The Ungor Spearmen might rout just because they have such terrible leadership. We'll see. No, it looks like they're going to make it. Yeah, they're going to make it. They lost like 1 or 2 dudes, but for Ungor Spearmen, who gives a shit? They've got their Lord equivalent, which is Biggins, sitting in there waiting. I don't care. Once the gate goes down, I am going to rush my units in as fast as possible. It is a big distance. Christ, so much of the map is just empty space that's covered by towers. What were they thinking when they made these goddamn siege maps? Honestly, what the fuck were they thinking? I have no idea what the thought process was. Okay, let's put these guys in here. Okay, and this is going to be a ugly, disgusting Death Star here, but it will hopefully be able to get through the gate a lot easier than like a actual proper line formation would. How much progress? The Ungor Spearmen have got the gate down to 50. Okay, Ungor Spearmen... Infantry should not do as much damage to gates as they do, but they do anyways, and you have to respect that when you're playing this game's really stupid, broken sieges. Infantry is just flatly the best way to deal with gates. Not battering rams, not monsters, not monstrous infantry. Just regular infantry. Just foot-slogging assholes. And, oh boy, I bet if we went ahead and paused this and zoomed in, my frames would just... Christ. Look at the sheer amount of goat here. Anyways, another problem we're going to be facing here, and this is a problem we'd be having even if sieges were properly balanced, is the Beastmen are not a great siege faction, even if sieges were properly balanced. Because they have one artillery piece that is not very good, and their primary purpose is skirmishing people with Centaurs and Ungor Raiders to force them to come to you and fight you in the forest with your monster selection and cavalry selection. If I was being... Could I just... Hypothetically speaking... Okay, later, bye. The AI is just gonna let the Ungors sit around in their town, I guess. Okay, they're sending down some of their dudes from the walls here. I might be able to just play like an asshole with these Ungors and force the enemy to try and send units after them. Which would be cheesy as fuck, but again, sieges in this game are stupid and broken, so I won't really care. At the very least, I could set these Ungors up as a flanking force. We're definitely able to get some of their forces off the walls, which will be nice so we don't get pounded as much. It looks like they've only moved melee units, actually, so that's not very much help. Okay, let's go ahead and get these guys here. Yeah, it looks like they're just going to let the Ungors run around inside the town. They don't give a fuck. Classic AI, I guess. They could just have those Ungors for dinner, but they're not going to. Okay, now if we want to see a real tried and true clusterfuck, this may be a tremendous mistake on my part. I don't think I've ever actually tried anything like this, and it may not work. They may get so brutalized by the towers that they're just going to, like, lose tons of dudes. Christ, the amount of Ungor is ridiculous. Look at that fucking unit preview. Okay. We are going to... Oh boy, let's watch this clusterfuck go down. I don't care if I lose, I just want to see this in action. And the frames will just fucking die because OBS is trying to record this, and at the same time my processor is trying to manage the recording and also manage the massive amounts of AI pathfinding going on here. Fuck. Oh boy, let's go ahead and hit that slow motion and look at what's going on here. I gotta admit, that's actually a pretty scary sight. This is the kind of formation a small child would make in Total War, but I don't care. It's sieges. Sieges in this game are fucking broken. Okay, is the AI going to try and divert melee forces to try and get rid of these Ungor spearmen sitting next to the flag? Okay, they're going to try and put the big uns in place. If the AI has any wit to them, they're going to plant the big uns. Oh, my spearmen have stalk. That's why the AI is ignoring them. Okay, I see. That makes sense. I forgot regular Ungor spearmen got stalk. I figure sometimes my brain just goes, you know, and assumes that Ungor raiders are the only Ungor unit that gets stalk. But no, that's not the case. So we're going to be able to have these big uns just sit here and engage in a staring contest with the Ungor spears, which is nice, because that means they won't be bothering the other army. Savage Orc big uns are a pretty impressive force, so I'd rather not have to deal with them. Yeah, this is a clusterfuck. Sieging without artillery is always a bit of a clusterfuck. Sieging without siege pieces is always a bit of a clusterfuck, but geez. Geez, oh Pete's. And can I use... Hang on. Can I use Vile Tide on the Savage Orcs on the wall? I can. Well, these guys are about to have a bad time. Hang on, let's pop it on both of them. So this is the brutal thing about having a wizard in a siege. We're not even going to take Malagor into the walls. We're going to plant Malagor under the walls. Malagor is taking a lot of missile fire. Fuck. Classic AI, I guess. Missile fire is way more effective against lords and heroes than it should be, if you ask me. Like, they've already got the... Hey, I can increase their miscast chance! Look at that! Increased miscast chance. Take this. Okay. So, yeah. Missile... They already have missile resist on Lords and Heroes, but it's still really brutal the way it is. Oh, man. This is gonna be something. I'd better use it on Vile Tide, though. Yeah, here we go. And take this! You flaming idiots! And there goes their archers. Just rushing the enemy is always the most effective strat. This game's fucking dumb. It's great if you're playing an actual battle, but not if you're playing a fucking siege. And I'm just gonna keep using my Winds of Magic on Vile Tide because it's so strong. This clusterfuck at the gate is not a great position for my Ungors. My Ungors are going to get their asses beat. But if I use magic, I can take advantage of this and wreck the enemy infantry. So let me go ahead and wait for Vile Tide to come back. I'm not going to use Brave Scream. Vile Tide seems like it might be the better tool here. There we go, and pop that, and boom. Didn't hit the Ungors too bad, but it hit the Savage Orcs like a fucking truck. This might actually be a good position for a Brave Scream right here. Yeah, here we go, here we go, here we go. No, that's not it. Here we go. Yeah, this ought to be pretty. Let's see. Yeah. Hold left click, by the way, to aim spells like this. And this will probably hit the Ungors, but I don't care. They're just Ungors. I probably should have saved that for Vile Tide, but I'm an impatient fucker. It hit enough. It hit enough. Okay, here we go. Let's go ahead. Is there any other particularly hot pockets of infantry? No, they're all routing. Okay. Now let's put old Malagor in a formation of his own. And let's have all 2 here take out these Error Boys. Bring it on, fuckers. Let's do this. We're doing this Beastman style, baby. Alright. Take on these Savage Orc Error Boys. Malagor will go ahead and hit them with a Vile Tide just to make them not as much of a threat. That didn't hit as hard as it could have, but I could have placed it better. Meanwhile, the rest of our army is just going to wreck the... Yeah, there we go. Fuck up the Error Boys. And Fa is going for the Savage Orc Error Boys, because he's got enough speed to do it anyways. Fuck it. And we are going to have these Spearmen go ahead and... Oh, okay, they are gathering back up. Let's see. Yeah, they're going to camp under there for a little bit. If we use Malagor's magic, though... Where's Malagor? Here's Malagor. We are going to do this. Wait, hang on. Okay. We are going to do... Oh, we're just going to go ahead and let them burn the wall. Take this, assholes. And let's wait for the wall to pass. And... anytime now. Alright. Take this, assholes. Alright, let's have all these assholes hit them as well. And we're going to have Malagor pop Vile Tide right here. Take out their Lord equivalent. That was a good placement. That did a fair bit of damage. And also, this is Savage Orcs, who take a lot more damage from magic, so this is actually a pretty good time to have Malagor. Alright, and let's see. Where are the infantry? Oh boy, here they come. Yeah, this is the main force right here. And rip. We win. Alright. I'm excited to see the riches we get from this. Not going to use it for growth. And battle. You do not need to run after routing enemies in sieges, by the way, because they have nowhere to run. That was a pretty good battle, all things considered, that I was using Beastmen to siege. If I had actual siege equipment, that would have certainly gone a lot easier. I feel like Beastmen still have an easier time sieging than Wood Elves, though, because at least they have better time directly confronting people than the Wood Elves. And we are going to, let's see. I like the quote from Victor Saltspire there. I like that Vermintide is now canon. I guess I can check out the individual unit stats, but I don't imagine they're going to be too impressive aside from Malagor. Yeah, a whole lot of units that got one kill. Not going to be able to check it until the loading screen ends anyways, because while it's loading, it lags so much that you can't really check the unit effectiveness stats. That one Ungor Spearman, I think, leveled up. Okay, here we go. Yeah, okay, let's see. So, these are not bad stats considering how little health they lost, I guess. The Giant did well, considering the amount of health he lost, which is none. This one regiment of Ungor archers that did no damage. Yeah, not terribly impressive stuff, I guess. Except for this guy, he did pretty well, I guess. Yeah, whenever you massively outnumber the enemy, the damage value is not going to be as impressive, except for Malagor, who did fantastic. Alright, and yeah, 8 growth, 2,800 gold. The choice is pretty obvious. There we go. And we left a big old twin herdstone there, nice. And enemy siege holdout time, -1 turn, from raising multiple settlements. Does not count for Goros, though, because he didn't do it himself. And what we're going to do with Goros is we are going to get him close to Malagor, and we're going to plant him in hidden encampment, so he can go ahead and start replenishing. Malagor cannot enter any stance, which is unfortunate, but he's got Goros right next to him, so he's not that threatened. For Malagor, we are going to head and put another in Blessed by Evil. And for the Gore Bull, we are going to put one into Best of the Beast. When you play Beastmen in battles, they're actually really fun. They'd be a lot more fun if I got to use units other than Ungors, but they're pretty fun. They're a very fast, aggressive army, and those feel good to play. But the campaign feels like such a trudge to get through. And there's so many things that could improve to just make them all around better. And the lack of unique campaign features does not make them feel special. Comparative to everyone else in Warhammer 1 by now, except for Chaos Warriors, the Beastmen just feel bad for lack of special features, bad for lack of campaign momentum, bad for lack of really good buffs, outside of the Darkmoon, which comes with massive nerfs as well. So when you compare them, even compared to Warriors of Chaos at least get like the fucking easiest campaign on the planet because they get to spam Chaos Warriors and Chosen. Beastmen are in just a really bad spot. I am fascinated to see how Creative Assembly tries to fix them with this coming DLC, because it's almost certainly going to be them. And once that's over, we're probably going to be off to the races for Warhammer 3 hype, because they're probably just going to wrap up Warhammer 2 with that last Lord Pack, and then there we go. Warhammer 3 begins, we'll probably get the first trailer for Khorne or Kislev. And I am beyond hyped. And folks, I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you later.